Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Happy Wednesday to you. It's a rainy one out there and a lot of cloud cover too, but I guess if you want to look at the bright side of things, we are getting toward the end of July, and with all these cloudy, rainy days that we've had over the last couple of weeks, our temperatures have managed to stay more in check. I was kind of looking back at some of the data that we had from the summer of 2023, and we were right at the beginning of where those temperatures started to climb into the upper 90s, and then we finished off July of 2023 with a couple of days over 100, and then of course all of us know how August went down, where we hit 100 or higher every single day during the month of August except for one day, and then we had those thunderstorms start to come in at the very end of the month. So we got a few 90-degree temperatures down there and then back into the 100s in September. So even though we're seeing a lot more rain out there, at least our temperatures have come down quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of our traffic cams. At least here in Lafayette, we have generally been rain-free for most of the day, as the line of thunderstorms and rain has continued to edge very, very slowly to the east. So we're not really seeing a lot of rain on our webcams here, but out to the west, things are considerably rainier, stormier, and we've even seen a few flood warnings go up as well. So let's go ahead and get right to the radar here. And you can see this line of thunderstorms just about ready to work its way out of Acadia Parish and into Lafayette Parish. I say just about ready, maybe about a half an hour to 45 minutes or so, as this entire line has just been crawling along. We did have a flood warning that was in place over back toward the Lake Charles area, but we do still have a couple of flood warnings here over central Louisiana, one here that will be in effect until 12:45 for parts of Vernon Parish, and then we've got another one here for parts of Rapides Parish that will be in effect until 1 o'clock. We have seen, at least according to this advisory, we have seen about 1 to 2 inches of rain, with an additional 1 to 3 inches of rain possible in those areas where the flood warning is already in effect. And check out how far south this rain goes. It extends out into the Gulf of Mexico. And then we'll go ahead and pull up the Houston radar to give you an idea how far out this moisture goes. Here's the Corpus Christi radar, and then as you go down here toward the Brownsville radar, you can see that moisture extends all the way down into portions of Mexico. So it is a pretty long stream of moisture that's going to be climbing across the Gulf of Mexico and into parts of Acadiana. So the rain chances are going to be staying very much on the high side. And I also wanted to show you the skew-T from this morning's sounding that went up. And when we talk about a saturated air mass, what you're looking for generally is where the green line and the red line are very close together. This one over here is the temperature, the green line is the dew point, and the closer those two numbers are together, the more moisture you have. It is very, very saturated atmosphere out there. And looking at our precipitative water, our pre-watt, or PWatt rather, is running about 2.36. So there is a ton of moisture that is available for use with these thunderstorms, and that's why we're thinking we could get some heavy downpours and maybe the possibility of some flooding. But outside of that, that is a lot of tropical moisture that's rolling up the west coast of the Gulf of Mexico. You got a bit of a trough that's over here. You got another little bit of a trough that's out here over central Florida going into portions of the Gulf of Mexico. Here's that other trough right here. So most of the moisture is going to continue to ride northward. At the surface, we've got a pretty good southerly flow. In the upper levels, it's coming in more from the southwest. So you've got that saturated atmosphere, not just at the surface, but also aloft as well. And some of the waves out there for our friends who are working on the rigs are out moving folks back and forth across the Gulf of Mexico. At least our nearshore waters are looking okay, about a 1 to 3 foot seas. Then it starts to climb as you get back into these bigger thunderstorms where some of the seas are running about 3 to 5 feet. The general direction of our waves are kind of moving from southeast to northwest. There's also a tropical wave that has made its way across the Atlantic with a bit of a low pressure area that's currently over the extreme southwestern portion of the Caribbean Sea, more of a monsoonal trough that's creating some showers and thunderstorms along the coast of Panama, Costa Rica, as well as Nicaragua. Fair weather day here across the Yucatan Peninsula, Guatemala, Belize, and much of Mexico. Looking like a pretty nice day there today with some fresh breezes coming in from the east. Caribbean satellite also not showing a whole lot of action out there. You do have a little bit of a tropical wave that's kind of working its way westward right about in here, and that's going to be moving into the leeward and windward islands. And if you look really closely, you're still seeing some Saharan dust here across the islands, and a lot of Saharan dust making its push out of the Atlantic Ocean as well. So that is still an issue out there, with the Saharan dust covering much of the Atlantic basin, a lot of it coming up here, then kind of coming around here. So that general area, quite a bit of dust there. Here's your one tropical wave, and then you've got yet another tropical wave that's out here. That's moving off toward the west as well. But it is going to encounter some of that Saharan dust and dry air, and probably won't have any a very good chance of developing. Got an upper level low that's currently right here just east of the Bahamas. Again, that is high in the atmosphere. You need low pressure down at the bottom, right on the water, to see anything tropical trying to develop. So as we continue to look farther to the east, there are a number of tropical waves rather that are starting to make their way westward across parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Another trough that's coming off the African coast. We will watch that as it eventually moves out into the Atlantic Ocean. Water temperatures, of course, are quite high. 26 to 27 degree water in the on the Celsius scale is all you need, and that's basically everything shaded in yellow or brighter. So from the yellows to the reds to the pinks, all of those areas would be able to sustain a tropical system and help it to enhance itself based on the water temperatures alone. And the tropical cyclone heat potential is also quite high in a number of areas. And just so you get your grounds, this is Florida right here, northern Gulf Coast right there. Cuba is here, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica there. You got Central America that runs right here. That's the northern coast of South America, and our leeward and windward islands are right there. So what this map does is it measures not just the 80-degree water at the surface, but how deep that goes as well. And when you have deep, warm water like this, if any kind of a tropical system wants to try to work its way into one of these particular areas out in the Caribbean, or even parts of the development zone in the far western Atlantic, you would be watching out for the possibility of rapid intensification due to the very warm and very warm deep waters that are out there. As we've talked about, Saharan dust, again, is still kind of the foe that's out there that really is inhibiting most of our tropical development. There's a tropical wave there, and you got that other tropical wave that's right about in here. So it's encountering a lot of this Saharan dust, and it's not just over the main part of the Atlantic, but the western Atlantic, the western Caribbean, and even in the Gulf of Mexico, we are seeing some of that Saharan dust, although it has made for some pretty nice sunsets when we catch a little sun toward the end of the day. And looking at the next several days, the mid-levels of the atmosphere are still going to stay relatively dry, although there are some hints of some pushes of moisture trying to work their way westward in certain areas. And I will tell you, yesterday we were on the hunt for any kind of a tropical wave or anything that the models were trying to pick up on, and we weren't seeing a whole lot out there, and a lot of that was because of the dry air, the Saharan dust, as well as some of the wind shear. But the GFS model yesterday was picking up on maybe a tropical wave making its way across the northern Caribbean islands, maybe through the Bahamas, and then into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. But I will tell you, today's model is really not showing much. Just a big ridge of high pressure out here in the middle part of the Atlantic, everything surging off toward the west and then moving off toward the northwest as it goes into the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. But yesterday there was a bit of a low, and I'm going to show you that model here in just a couple of minutes, but it was showing a little bit of a low coming into the Gulf of Mexico somewhere around the first couple of days of August. And the Euro model was not showing anything yesterday, just about the same, a big ridge of high pressure out here with everything kind of drifting off toward the west, off the African coastline. But if you watch this particular area right here, you will see some moisture surge in, and you'll see a little bit of a low pressure area developing there right along the Cuban coast. So that is different from what we saw yesterday. So how can we make these comparisons? Now, the GFS had something yesterday, and this is basically what it looked like. So this is yesterday's 6Z model. So this is very early yesterday morning, and on August the 3rd, it had a low pressure area sitting over the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico and then making its way inland over parts of Florida. Not as anything very strong, but again, we're at the point right now where we just don't have anything out there, that we're just kind of cherry picking every model to see what we can find, just as we could see any kind of a hint that maybe the tropics are going to be waking up again as we go into August, as we really know it's going to. But this is the Euro model, and even though we're really not seeing, again, this is the one from this morning. So the GFS one I showed you was actually from yesterday, showing low pressure there over the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, we're also looking at another low that could be forming here over the southern part of the northern part of Cuba and into the Bahamas. If you look right down there on the bottom of that particular frame, you can see where that currently is, and why we're thinking that maybe we'll see something developing in this particular area. There we go. I got the low there now. So that's where the Euros is. Remember, the one from yesterday for the GFS was here. So this is one of those areas where you get development during the month of August. Eastern Gulf, Western Atlantic, and areas over by the Caribbean as well usually do see some of that development there. So it's something that we will be watching very, very closely here over the next couple of days. So definitely something that we will be watching. Although the National Hurricane Center is not expecting anything over the next 7 days, but August the 3rd, what is that, next weekend, next Saturday, a week from Saturday? So you're talking about 9 to 10 days. So that is outside the window here. But we'll keep looking. I know some of you might be thinking, oh, you're just trying to cherry pick and trying to find at least something out there. Well, yeah, that's kind of what we do here on Let's Talk Tropics. And it's exactly what we did when we had both Hurricane Beryl just getting started off the African coast, even though most people were thinking, oh, this is not going to be a big deal, because it's early July, or late June rather, early July. We just don't have a lot of systems like that, but we continued to watch those models. And of course, Hurricane Beryl was quite devastating for much of the Caribbean, and of course for us right here along the Gulf Coast. And at the same time, Tropical Storm Chris made a little bit of a show up there in the southern part of the Bay of Campeche. And again, computer models weren't in very good agreement with that one, but it was something that we were looking for. And that's what we do here on Acadiana Weather Today. But we do know as we go into the month of August that the chances for development really start to ramp up. We're still kind of in a low end area, and a lot of times on each and every season, it seems like you get a couple of storms that'll develop in June, and then things will shut down for about 5 or 6 weeks. And that's when the naysayers get out there and say, oh, well, what about these big numbers that you were predicting? Well, I usually say, well, August, September, and October are not here yet. And don't worry, things are going to be turning on. And of course, during the month of August, you get a lot more development. It shows here that this is the map that's showing about the number of storms that fall within about 150 to 200 miles from any one of these zones. And you can see the western part of the Atlantic Ocean is a very big hotspot, and also that little area that I was showing you where we're seeing maybe some hints in the models, that is also a fairly active area during the month of August. And I would expect things to really start to wake up here over the next couple of weeks, which is why, and I will show you this graphic once again, and for those of you who watch Let's Talk Tropics every day, I know you have seen this graphic 1,000 times already, but these are the things that you need to do right now while there are no storms out there. And there are plenty of these items at all of the stores. Make sure you get your batteries, your flashlights, water, and non-perishable food. And I know that's a hard thing to do with the non-perishable food. It's just Margot and I at the house now. We don't have 4 children living with us. That was a tough one, getting non-perishable food, because it's all junk food. And kids love junk food. And you know what? I love junk food too. So we would, eat right through it as fast as we could. So if you got a place to hide that, if you've got kids, or even if your spouse doesn't like junk food, have them hide it from you, like I would have to have for me, because I really like the junk food too. Make sure you got your first aid kit all put together. Make sure you know how much prescription medicine you have, where you would get prescription medicine if you had to evacuate for an extended period of time. Personal hygiene items and house cleaners are always good to have on hand. IDs, insurance, important papers. Make sure you save those as digital. It's really easy. Just take a picture of it with your phone, or many of you probably have LA Wallet, where you've got your different identifications that are in there, medical cards and things like that too. And then also a basic tool set, plenty of entertainment for the kids that does not require batteries or electricity. And if you have pets, you know, some pets have a lot of items, whether it's their bedding, whether it's a litter box, or whether it's prescription medicines, different things like that. Make sure you have plenty of pet supplies ready right now while all of those are out there at the store. And then while the rest of the procrastinators are out there running around with the rest of the crowd at the last minute, you'll be kicking back and ready to go, and you'll be able to put your evacuation plan in place if indeed you decide to go. So those are just some things that you can do right now, and of course we'll continue to look for any tropical weather out there. Right now we're good for the next several days, so you got plenty of time to do any kind of preparation. Well, I'm certainly enjoying hanging out with everybody at noon on Let's Talk Tropics. If you like my videos, go ahead and like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications too. That way you'll know when Let's Talk Tropics goes live again, or when Acadiana Weather Today, the morning forecast, hits sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. And occasionally I'll throw out some fun videos out there. I got a cool one I did when I got to go to New Orleans to pick up my wife from the airport, and she was among all that big mess of the weekend of people's flights being delayed. So I took the old road, like the old Highway 90, which is actually 182 now. Took it all the way down through Homa, and then came back up through Raceland and over on the West Bank and came into New Orleans that way. Such a beautiful drive, but I threw a little 60-second video on my channel there if you want to check that out too. So there are other things on Acadiana Weather Today that you can enjoy outside of a weather forecast and Let's Talk Tropics. Well, I hope to see y'all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Try to stay dry. We'll watch those radars very closely, and if anything threatens, I will let you know right away on my social media pages. For now, I'm Dave Baker, and I will see you tomorrow.